So hello to our students in the room and Gisela, and as well as Dr. Wickstrom and Dr. Plume and Dr. Walton, and also to Chris Tomasini from the library here in Aurelia. My name is and also to Allie. My name is Meredith Lovell-Johnston. I am the Chair of Graduate Studies and Research in the Faculty of Education. Today we're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough of the Master of Education program. So for those of you who are watching right now, um, I will let you know that I'm happy to take any interruptions or questions. Um, Otherwise, I will be circulating this along with the slides, so don't feel that you need to write down every link or something like that. I will be circulating the slides probably on Monday. Oh, that was welcome and introductions. So one of the things I tried to think when I'm doing orientations about the kinds of things that our students really need to know early in their program and what will help them to be successful and also encounter the least amount of stress. So one of those things that I think is not really well understood in our department is sort of the structure of the program. So my role is the graduate chair, and that means that I am responsible for the day-to-day operations of the graduate programs. I select the courses. I'm just going to make sure there's nobody in a waiting list. I select the courses. I often with help hire instructors. Um, I my department collects all of the course syllabi, but then also I'm responsible for a lot of the paperwork that goes into the program. And so what that work looks like is different if you're a master's thesis student, or you're a master's portfolio student, or a course-based student. And so if you have any paperwork that needs to go in, you can always send it to our graduate administrative officer. Her email is gradadmin.educ@lakeheadu.ca, and it's always just a good plan to also copy me. So then I will sign off on things, but we like paperwork to be funneled through one person so we don't miss anything. One of the things that I also do, which is not as pertinent for the spring, is a graduate assistant assignments. So if you are a domestic student who is starting in the spring, you may have received an offer for funding um, with your acceptance into the program. Normally, we take care of that. You probably won't hear much about that except from HR, and please make sure that you respond to HR because that paperwork needs to be in a timely fashion, but you won't hear from me until mid-April for that. So since most of the students won't need that information right now, I won't talk extensively about graduate assistantships. With us today, we also have Dr. Gary Plume and Dr. Gerald Walton, who are on campus. One, Dr. Walton is located at the Thunder Bay campus, and Dr. Plume is at the Aurelia campus, and I'll give them a minute to introduce themselves in a minute. But if you are a master's student and you have questions about the program, and things that you're confused about, or if you have paperwork, like let's say you need to talk about whether it would be good for you to take a leave of absence, you can speak to the coordinators first, because then that helps us. One of the things that I try to stress in my when I talk to students is it is really best if you email us first. So I know I've been getting an increasing amount of phone questions from students. If you send us an email first, It's best because then we can look up your information and we can make sure that we have all of the information ready for you before we reach out to you, and then we can follow up with an email, or we can follow up with an offer to meet. So I was welcome to Emma and others that are joining us on the call. We're just getting started, going a little bit through introductions. So Gerald, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Meredith. Hi, everyone. My name is Gerald Walton, as Meredith said. Um, I've been a Lakehead 18 years, and I've been a grad coordinator for 4 of those. And I'm sort of an outgoing um, coordinator. I don't mean outgoing as in social. I mean outgoing as in my term is coming up. Um, but here I am for now. And being a grad coordinator is interesting because, I answer people's questions to do with the program and courses and general things of that sort, but also for international students in particular. I try to answer whatever question I can to help to, I don't know, welcome you to campus and welcome you to Thunder Bay life and welcome you to the Faculty of Education. And I don't have all the answers around these things, but I can certainly provide resources for you and point you in the direction of where you need to go, that sort of thing. So, it's been a great privilege for me to do that and a big learning experience for me as well. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Gary Plume. I'm at the Aurelia campus, and my work is similar to what Gerald does in Thunder Bay. So I'm happy to be a first point of contact for your questions about the Master of Education program, navigating through it. We can email if you want to meet in person. I'm happy to do that if it's easier to sit down around the Aurelia campus. I do. I'm just going to take a minute and just also say that if you're looking for thesis or portfolio support, my area is in social foundations, intercultural education. I do some work with youth, a lot of international and comparative work, broadly critical pedagogies, and a lot of citizenship and democracy and education stuff as well. Um, I'm just going to put in a 10-second plug here too. I teach a course that's coming up this time next year. It's an intensive master's course, and we spend 2 weeks hiking, biking, and canoeing through Simcoe County to understand the geographies, histories, cultures, politics, the environment, indigenous settler relations, and so on. Things that are going to be really relevant for anybody working in education in the county to understand the region as a place-based, from a place-based perspective. And I'm saying this now because if you or if someone you know is interested in this course, please reach out to me because there's a fair bit of preparation involved in taking this course. Meredith, I know we're doing that kind of intro later in the meeting today, so forgive me
No,
for
it's
jumping in
good.
a little
I
bit.
should actually have also asked Gerald to speak a bit about your research if you wish.
Sure. So maybe I'll start off by doing a plug too for a course that I'm teaching this July. It's a 3-week compressed version of the 1 semester long gender and education course. And teaching it in 3 weeks in July is always an intense but also fun experience. I really like doing that. And I sort of plug that course because that has a lot to do with the research that I do. So I look a lot into violence in society and bullying in schools and the gendered aspects of those things primarily. And so that's largely what I do. Gosh, what else? I am sort of moving in the direction to some degree, given the work I do, in looking at issues related to international students in Canada. And as I think we all know, there has been a whole beehive of issues and controversies and all the rest of it. And that is fodder for doing some research that can help address some of those things. So that in a nutshell is what I do. Thank you, Meredith.
You're welcome. And actually, since I know you're not able to stay the whole time, Hannah, did you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Meredith. I'll just do a quick introduction. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lakehead. My name is Hannah. I'm an adjunct professor here based in the Aurelia campus. In an adjunct role, I'm always happy to serve as a thesis committee member, but I'm not able to supervise. In terms of thesis committee contributions, my areas of research look at early years education, specifically kindergarten to grade 2, I would say around there. I look at play-based learning and early academic skills, including literacy and mathematics. And I do a lot of qualitative and classroom-based research. I am also, I teach a lot in the graduate program, although unfortunately I'm not actually teaching the graduate program in this upcoming year. But at the same time, I also work as a supply teacher in the Simcoe County District School Board. So if you have any questions about what it's like to be a classroom teacher, supply teaching, life at Lakehead, you're always welcome to reach out. And if I can't answer your questions, I can probably connect you with someone who could do a better job. So with that, I will pass it back to Meredith.
Thank you. Gisela, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there. Oh, we might get an echo, so I'll wait till later.
Okay. Chris?
Thanks, Meredith. I'm glad I didn't run away here. I didn't realize you were doing this so quickly. My name's Chris Tomasini. I'm the librarian at the Aurelia campus. Gisela and I are going to speak later, but I'll introduce Gisela quickly since she couldn't. Gisela Scalese is the librarian at the Thunder Bay campus, and both of us can help you with any online questions as well if you email us or contact us. So, thank you, Meredith.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to start sort of the formal part of my talk, which is I will always start with the Master of Education Handbook. So in recent years, we revised the Master of Education Handbook. It went from 20 pages to 70. And that really reflects our commitment to make sure that everything that you need about your program is in there. So I have the hyperlink there. We will be revising it and updating it this year, but the most recent version was 2023. There's also a QR code there if you want. One of the things, and I will be referring to the handbook a couple of times. The thing that I really want to bring to your attention is that A, it would be good to read the handbook, but B, on pages 61 to 69, we've developed checklists. So one of the things I know that is really unsettling for those that come from our Bachelor of Education program, which is very highly structured, and is that when you come into the Master of Education program, you have a lot more flexibility in the order of the classes you take, sometimes in which classes you take, and how surprising it was to me when I became chair how many of our students apply to graduate and don't know if they've met their requirements. So the checklist allows you to follow along. There's one for each of our different programs that I'll explain next. And if you are asking to meet with Dr. Walton or Dr. Plume or Dr. Berger, who will be taking over for Dr. Walton, or me, we ask you to look at that first because it should answer about 99% of your questions. And we've designed it that way so that you can have confidence that you're meeting your program objectives. Okay, so in the Master of Education program, we actually have two Master of Education programs. One is Educational Studies, and one is Education for Change. So if you're admitted to Educational Studies, I just ran the numbers recently, which confirmed what I know, that Educational Studies is very, very popular with our international students particularly, but it's highly flexible. So there are 2 compulsory courses, and then you can take electives that really are aligned with your interests. So you could take things that are related to social justice, you could take things that are related to psychology or curriculum studies in language arts, which Hannah and I both teach, and Allie has taken. But we also have the Education for Change program. So if you are really interested in looking at society and the power structures that influence the way that education happens, or that affect the well-being of students, or if you're interested in looking at Indigenous education and the way that plays out in school and the issues that affect Indigenous communities, or if you're interested in looking at the environment and climate change, and those are situated under Education for Change. So they're both equivalent degrees, and I will say in our program, like sometimes people come into educational studies and in their first term, they might take gender and education, and then they're inspired, right? And they want to have the rest of their coursework and their degree reflect that. And so it is possible to change in our program. You would meet with one of the coordinators to talk about, and earlier is better, but there is some flexibility to talk about what that looks like in relation to the courses you have and your plan. But those are also, like I said, the educational studies and the Education for Change options are laid out at the end of the handbook on pages 61 to 69. We also have a table about page 19, I think it's table 5, that talks about some of the courses that we offer. You can tell that I'm asked this a lot. Some of the courses that we offer that align with each of these specializations, and different considerations to think about there. We also have collaborative specializations. It's apparently lost the second line of all of my lovely little dots, but in gender and women's studies and gerontology, the ones that are in red are not able to be applied for, not able to be switched into typically after you've started your program. So if you're just starting, we may be able to make a change, but they're specifically structured and involve other departments in the university. So typically you would have had to apply to each of those directly. So the second thing that I wanted to bring up is that within each program, you have the option to do a course-based program, to do or to do a research-based program that would either be a portfolio or a thesis. Looking at our numbers, about 90% of our students finish in the course-based program. So what that means is that they take 10 classes, and you have typically have 2 years to complete 10 classes, although you are able to complete earlier. I have on here some timelines we'll talk about. And you take courses that align with your specialization and your interests. At the end of that, you get a Master of Education degree. But again, sometimes people get inspired and they want to make a contribution to practice. So then they would go into, or if they're not already in, the portfolio route. So the portfolio route, you take 8 courses, you work with the supervisor to develop a project, and we have lots of really interesting practical projects that have come through in the years since I've been chair. We have teacher's guides that have been developed for teaching specific content to students. We have one student who developed a sensory trail for adults with autism to do on horseback for a local equine assisted intervention program. We have like reports that people have authored. We have websites. The newest that the students I've been supervising really enjoy is giving podcasts. So they'll do podcasts. So like there's lots of different things that you can do that will make a practical impact on the professional community. And then we also have a thesis-based program. So a thesis, students take 6 courses. They work with the supervisor to develop a research project. And then they write about that as a thesis. Last month, I did a video. It's linked here for you, and it will be in the slides when I send them around, about what the differences are and what the benefits are and the drawbacks of taking each of these routes. So depending on whether you're thinking about professional goals or you're thinking about academic goals, like at some point I might want to go into PhD program, there are certain ways that you can position yourself. For example, doing the thesis route will probably give you a better chance to be considered for a PhD program, although there's nothing saying in some programs do take students who don't have a thesis. So the video is about an hour, but it is, I think, a really good rundown of what those differences are. And again, one of the key differences too is that a course-based program typically is shorter than a thesis program. So if you want to do a thesis, it's better to be thinking about that early and what your interests are. Reach out to me or to Dr. Plume or Dr. Walton. If that's something you're thinking about, we can talk through those options with you. And so that is something that definitely we can speak about. But I will say, doing a thesis is a long process, right, Allie? And sometimes a really isolating process. So if it's something that you're kind of like, I kind of want to do this, but I'm not really all that serious, or my life is too hectic where I probably shouldn't take on a lot of independent work, that might not be something that you want to take on. So highlighting here the checklist, like I said, they're on pages 61 to 69. Those are your best friends. So those are in there. You can print it out or save that page and follow along. You'll see what the compulsory courses are. You'll see what your electives are. And any restrictions that are on those. Okay, so I'm just trying to be good about time. One of the things that I guess I should have moved it over to spring summer, but one of the things I wanted to do is show what it looks like to do a course-based program. So you have 6 terms, which is 2 full years. Most students have 2 full years unless you're flex time. So to do that, you can spread out your courses. You might take 2 in the fall, 2 in the winter, or sorry, start with 1 in the spring, 1 in the summer. There's an opportunity to take a placeholder, like let's say you have an excellent summer job at a camp. Thanks, Hannah. And it's really aligned. You would take a spring class. You can enroll in a placeholder for the summer. Placeholders do incur tuition, but you can spread it out over 2 years. The very bottom example, so the top example of about 5 terms or 4 terms is the typical. The very bottom one, where you compress everything into taking the maximum course load each term, is really not recommended. It's a lot. And also, one of the things about graduate education is you get time to actually think about things. And if you're and research things and try different ideas and write about them, and that's typically very difficult to do, particularly if you have other things that are happening in your lives. Portfolio. So portfolio tends to be 5 to 6 terms. A difference in here would be taking a directed study with the supervisor. So a directed study is an option where one of your courses will be with your supervisor. You do a deep dive into your topic. It helps prepare you for writing your portfolio or your thesis. It's usually done near the end of your program. And then the thesis. You have to be very on the ball to do your thesis in 5 terms. With your coursework usually being in the first year, you have to be very, very, very on the ball. 6 is more usual. So that would be the full 2 years. Two of the things I also wanted to bring up are that, and you'll notice that here. So you notice that the green ones, like all of them are green. So if you're used to undergraduate, you're used to not taking classes in the spring and summer, but maintaining continuous enrollment is required as a graduate student. So even if you're not taking a class in a term, you need to be in a placeholder. Otherwise, the Faculty of Graduate Studies, they will enroll you in one the first time, and you'll get a tuition bill that you didn't expect. But after that, they'll cancel your program because it's the student's responsibility to make sure that they are enrolled term after term after term. If something comes up and we know that life interferes, you can request a leave of absence. So you need to speak to me or to Dr. Walton or to Dr. Plume, and we can advise you on how to do that. The easier that you apply for a leave of absence, the better. But during that time, you're also not able to access university resources. So you, like your library access will be cut, but there is no tuition. So, and then what it does is it delays your final term. It'll move it later, so you still don't lose any terms. It's important to know which program you're in. If you expect to have one placeholder and you can't register, that means that you're registered in a different program than you think you are. So like if you're a course-based student, there's a code for that. It's 9701. If you are a thesis student, it's 9901. So if it tells you that you don't have the one that you think you have, you'll need to look at that. The other thing, so in graduate studies, you need to maintain what they call minimum academic standing. So what that means is that to pass courses in the Faculty of Education in the master's program, 70 is a pass. So if something happens and you receive a mark of C, which is in the 60 to 69 range, you can have up to 2 of those. So it's not like you'll be removed from the program. And we know that happens sometimes as people are most usually transitioning into the program. But one of the things that I encourage you to do is to keep track of where your grades are, because there's a point, and it'll be, I think it's the 23rd of May for spring term, and we'll send around a reminder that says the last day to withdraw from classes is May 23rd. Take a look at where you are. I know that we don't like to give up on something that is that we've been trying really hard on, but a failed course on your transcript is really messy to clean up because graduate students are not allowed to have failed courses. So what that means then is that we have to petition the university to withdraw you after the fact, and that incurs a fee. It's much easier to just drop the class, try again later. And particularly, like, let's say you were really gung-ho and you thought, hey, I'm going to do 2 spring classes, and then by the middle of the term you're pulling out your hair, drop one. Like I said, it's much easier to be proactive than to go back and try to fix up if you failed a course. A couple of last minute things I wanted to talk about. We do have resources for students. We have the academic support zone. There's a link here. Like I said, I'm sending it around. The academic support zone helps with writing support. And this year they actually were able to do a pilot for graduate student writing support, because typically they handle a lot of undergraduate student support. So if you need help with, like, how do I express ideas in my writing, you know, reach out to them, but reach out early because they're very busy. We also have the Academic Integrity Matters module, which is on D2L. D2L will be the main, if you haven't logged in yet, will be the main portal for your classes. Up on the right, there will be a link to self-register, and it's in there. Academic integrity is really important. And so this is Lakehead's way of giving you the training so that you don't get yourself into a situation where you're looking at academic penalties. So it addresses things like plagiarism, but there is a new section this year, and so they're also recommending those that have taken it in the past to take the brush up. A new section on how do I ethically use AI. So I know that when people get overwhelmed, they don't want to ask for help. Please reach out to your course instructors. We try to do our best to hire people who are understanding. But one of the things I will say is it is very easy to tell who has used AI to write their paper. There are ways to use it ethically to help you think about ideas, generate ideas, but you should not be saying, hey, AI, please write my 5-page paper for Meredith's class about, the literacy curriculum. It's very, very easy to tell. And as graduate students, technically by policy, we're supposed to have a zero tolerance policy. So I don't want to see you, if you're stressed, if you don't understand what the assignment is about, please reach out. If you're going to find it difficult to meet a deadline because you have personal circumstances, please reach out. But what I don't want to see is you fail out of our program and be expelled, because that comes up on your transcript, and that's very distinctly on your transcript, and every university in the future will be able to see that. And not meet, for example, student visa requirements. The Academic Integrity Matters module will help, but please also reach out. It's to me, the most important part of my job is making sure that students are successful and that they're able to meet their personal and professional goals and with the least amount of mess and fuss. So, like I said, send me an email. I answer my emails pretty fast, usually within 20 minutes. But if you haven't heard from me from the next day, and reach out to peers. So Allie can talk a little bit about that. As Gerald said, sometimes we get questions that we might know the answers to or we might not know the answers to. So if you're in doubt, reach out to one of us. Please don't email both of us separately the same email, because that's kind of wasteful. So one of the questions I get is about visa requirements and postgraduate work permit requirements. I know the answers to that, but I'm not trained and have the background to give you the answers to that. So Lakehead International, great place. They're usually pretty quick with the turnaround. They also have really good social activities for new students on campus, as well as help with things like my parents back home suddenly became ill, and I need to travel internationally to go home, and I might have to take a leave of absence, and what does that look like? They're sort of your first point of contact. We also have counseling and mental health support, and physical health support. So like I said, you know, if counseling services, we have, what's what I'm looking for? Not anonymous, but like, you know, confidential, yes. Confidential counseling available on both campuses. If you're really in a crisis, do call 911. But, you know, there's counseling available. We also have the Office of the Ombudsperson. If things are happening around you and you're not sure of how to navigate university policy, or, for example, there's, you know, there's something bad has happened, like you've had an academic integrity complaint against you, the Office of the Ombudsperson can help you understand those and also talk about sort of what that means. I think because I'm behind and I talked about most of these already, I'm going to kind of go past them. I will just say that you know, if there is a suspected breach of academic policy, academic integrity policy, your instructor will contact me, and they will send you a form that says, I suspect there has been a breach of the academic integrity policy. Timelines are really important. So the Office of Student Conduct will reach out to you. Then it goes over my head. It goes to Dean Melville, who will typically ask to meet with you, may request some documentation from you, and then he will deliberate and then give you the decision. Decisions are appealable, so that is where the Office of the Ombudsperson is really important because they can help you understand your legal rights, and they're impartial. So they don't work for students, they don't work for the university, they're funded by both, but their job is to be impartial and to understand sort of the rules and regulations. Okay, a little bit later than I think I'd wanted, but hopefully not too late. I will turn over and mute myself and turn to Chris and Gisela.
Thank you, Meredith. So Meredith, we're going to need to prompt you to advance the slides for us, eh? So just mostly for Gisela. So yeah, just stay here for a second. So again, my name is Chris Tomasini. I'm the librarian at the Aurelia campus. And my colleague is Gisela Scalese from the Thunder Bay campus. So there's a physical education library collection in Thunder Bay, and there's another physical library collection at the Aurelia campus. But the online resources are accessible by anyone from anywhere. So the many, 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 many e-resources that we have can be accessed wherever you are. We're going to give our contact info near the end, but I think for the moment I'll turn it over to Gisela, and she will walk you through some of the resources.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me? You're good? Okay. I changed rooms so that we wouldn't get feedback. So I apologize for that. Thank you, Chris, for introducing me earlier. So as Chris mentioned, we have physical locations in both Thunder Bay and Aurelia. Along with the physical locations, there are lots of really great resources that Chris mentioned on the library website. And I would really recommend that you take some time and go through the Education Library site. There's links to great teaching resources and databases and other kinds of curated lists of resources on different subjects that you will find useful. Also, the library hours for both campuses are on this site. And when you get your course outlines at the beginning of the term, it's a really good idea to always come to the library site and double check to make sure to see if you have access to these resources through the library site. So I'll just begin by mentioning that the first really important search tool that you need to know about is called Omni, and this is the library's main search tool. This is the same search tool that you're going to see across 18 university libraries in Ontario. So with Omni, you can do a lot of really great things. Meredith, if you can go to the next slide. So with Omni, you can search for books, ebooks, journal articles that are available through Lakehead, as I mentioned. You can access these ebooks and journal articles. You don't have to, you do this because you're a student at Lakehead University. If you're asked to log in, you'll enter your Lakehead username and password. Please don't ever pay for a journal article or anything that you see that you find in a Google search. Always come back to the library site to see if it might be available there. Also through Omni, you can request books from any other library on campus. So if you see that something is in Orillia or on Thunder Bay campus, you can request it to move between both campuses. You can also request books from other Ontario University libraries. So there's a great request service. Also, if there's a journal article or a chapter in a book that you need, you can request a digitization of that. So there's some great things that you can do through Omni. Next slide. So this is just to quickly show you, it's a very basic search. This is just an example of a book that you may need to look for called Grad School Essentials. You can search by author, title, subject. You can specify if you want just what's available at Lakehead or Lakehead plus all of the other libraries. You can tell it what you want it to look for. When you hit search, it will give you the results below the search box. And if you go to the next slide, Meredith, just to show you here, for example, you might see something like this where it says that the book is available at Thunder Bay, Education, and other locations. Always click to see if you see that it says and other locations. What that means is that it's probably at Orillia as well. And so then you might also see that it says it's available online. So if you click the link that says it's available online, you'll be able to connect to the actual ebook online. Okay, next slide, Meredith. The other thing that you have access to on the library website are specific education journal databases. Now with Omni, you can search for peer-reviewed journal articles as well, but it's all different subject areas, which can be kind of like a big Google Scholar or Google search. If you come back to the library site, look for the link that says Education Databases, you'll be searching just education research databases, okay? So Chris and I are available for help with searching those databases. We'll help you with keyword formulation, search strategy, and helping you to find the best database that works for you, okay? So if you get frustrated, you have to do a search with journals, you have to come up with a number of journal articles. We're absolutely happy to help you with this. Next slide, Meredith. Okay, a couple of other things on the library website are some curated websites. We call them LibGuides. There's one, so they're on arranged by topic or by user group. So we have one library guide that's just for education graduate students. It gives you a little bit of everything you need to know, information about finding theses and dissertations, for example, finding government documents, information about education in Ontario and Canada, if that's new to you. And those are available on the library website, but you can go directly with the link that we've given here. Okay. Next page. Okay, so here, definitely reach out to Chris and I, as I mentioned. If you're in Thunder Bay or you're an online, solely online student, you can reach out to me. And there is also a way to make a research consultation appointment with either Chris or I on the library website, but you can also just email us and we'll set up a time. And of course, Chris is available for students that are based in Orillia. Okay. You're also welcome to visit the libraries in person. The Thunder Bay Education Library is open throughout the summer. And as it says on the screen in Orillia, the Harvey Legacy Library is open all summer. There's also an education library that you can visit by appointment. Okay, and then next slide. Okay, one other thing that I will mention, because I often forget to mention this. Sometimes when you're on the library website and you're searching, you're doing something, you might see this little Ask a Librarian window that comes up in the bottom right corner. So what will happen, so basically this is a chat service that it's a province-wide chat service that you can take advantage of. If you click on that Ask a Librarian, you'll actually be connected with a live person that will help you with your with whatever problem you're having. And sometimes you'll find Chris and I on, that will be the librarian on the other end, and sometimes it might be a librarian from another university, but it's okay. We can all help you. And if they can't help you, they'll refer you to someone that can definitely help you. So if you're stuck, sometimes this is really great if you're doing some work on the weekend or evenings and you know, you can't get to the library and you want just some quick help. This is a great service as well, the virtual help. All right. And then final slide, Meredith, just to let you know that for the students that are on the Thunder Bay campus, we are setting up again this summer, spring and summer, a weekly kind of drop-in conversation club event. You're welcome to come by, have some snacks, talk to us about if you need library help. We may have some guest speakers during those days, and we may even have some crafts and things set up that you can enjoy while you're there. So it'll be every Wednesday, 10:30 to 12:30 from May right up until the beginning of August. And that's it. I'll end there.
Great, thank you. I wanted to go sort of into the next piece where I will turn it over to Allie and to Nat, but I wanted to, sorry, I'm on the wrong screen. I wanted to say before we do that there are really great opportunities to engage with graduate studies as a department, with other students, with the university. On Friday, we had a really excellent graduate student conference, research conference. There are funding competitions, there's social opportunities such as the library's drop-ins over the summer. During the school year, so during the main part of the school year, so from September until the end of April, we have brown bag lunches, or lunch and learns as they're sometimes called, which you will all be invited to, where you can hear about faculty and student research that's happening. They're available by Zoom or in person in many cases. I will often send out links to upcoming defenses if you want to see what it looks like to be a doctoral student and hear about their research. You can show up to defenses. This year, one of the doctoral students set up virtual writing blocks and has invited all of the students, where everybody just drops everything and writes, or they check in with each other and then they drop everything and write for an hour. There's the opportunity to join a faculty committee, to travel to conferences if you're presenting your work, as well as probably in September or October, we will circulate a call for small research studies within the faculty. We call it the Research and Teacher Education Funding. All this to say, when I was a master's student, I just went to my classes. I spent most of my time off campus. And that was kind of a waste, because when I became a doctoral student and I spent most of my time on campus, what I learned is that all of these opportunities, all of this learning that was available and offered to me through the Faculty of Graduate Studies, through the Faculty of Education, through my peers, was so rich. So we do these things to build our CV sometimes, especially if we're looking towards our professional or academic goals, but also to build your relationship to the university and to really improve, your circumstances and support other students. Okay. I will leave this up because I believe you're both part of it, but I'll leave it there. And then I will introduce to you Allie Gardner-Lee, who is just finishing her Master of Education program and will be transitioning to doctoral studies in the summer. And Nat Fianaka, who was formerly a Master of Education student and is going into year two of the PhD program. And so our thought was that we could have plenty of time for them to talk about their experiences, but also I will monitor the chat if you have questions that you want to ask. Now, burning questions, now is your opportunity.
As a weird side note, Mayor, if you happen to have the number for either the financial aid office or the OSAP person, I just have a student in the chat who's been requesting it, but I can't grab it and talk at the same time. So yeah, other than that, hi everybody. You've seen me expressively making faces throughout the course of the presentation. I'm Allie. I am second-year master's. I'm going into my PhD this summer, which is super exciting. I'm very much looking forward to joining that in that program. My experience through the master's program has been, it's been a lot. Mayor's not kidding when she says, don't try to push yourself to get everything done as quickly as humanly possible. That is a very, very quick route to burnout. Nat is nodding because she also understands. I will be one of the students who finishes within the two-year realm just because I am thesis route and I'm still working on completing my thesis. Nat's nodding because she did the same thing as me. If you decide to do thesis, I highly encourage it because honestly, it is really interesting to be able to conduct your own authentic new research. But that being said, use the checklist, stay on top of everything because you could wind up in the same position that I'm in where it kind of is all getting crammed in at the last minute. And you really want to be able to put your best foot forward when you're doing something like writing a project as massive as a thesis. In terms of my program experience, I was in the education, or I'm in the educational, I'm already talking like I'm going away. I'm in the educational studies program, although that does not count you out of taking education for change courses. For instance, my research and education course, I took the for change option just because I wanted to be able to engage with critical words are hard today. I really enjoy the critical thinking aspects of the For Change program, but my research interest is in literacy. So I took educational studies, one, because I wanted to be able to have Meredith supervise me because that's her area. But I knew that I wouldn't be restricted from being able to kind of take whatever interests me. And as somebody with ADHD, I need to be able to take whatever interests me. But I do also know plenty of people who have really enjoyed, you took the For Change program, right, Nat? Or did you? Yes, you did. I know quite a few people who take that route as well. So whichever one you took, there's no wrong way to go about it. And then, yeah, if you haven't already, definitely check out LUSU's website for clubs where you can find the information for LUEGSA. I'll grab the link when Nat introduces herself just so that you can register because we do, we're slowly building it up, but it is a nice little community for graduate students to be able to connect with each other and feel like you're more involved in the university, especially if you're in an online program like Nat and I are. I'll pass it over to Nat and grab that link for you guys.
Thanks, Allie. That was really well done. I don't know how I'm going to follow that up. This is like meeting number 4 for me today, but we're gonna give it our best effort. So hello, everyone. My name's Nat Fianaka. I'm starting my second year of the PhD program now, and I am a graduate of the MEd program and a graduate from the BEd program here at Lakehead as well during the pandemic, so everything was online for me already. So I was primed to just keep rolling, and that is exactly what I did. One of the things that I would like to advise you as you take your master's program, as Ali touched on, if you are doing a master's thesis, that's great. Pick one thing. Don't pick all the things. You want to do that, do the PhD, and then you can you have a bit more time to figure that out. Because I had two big things that I was super interested in, and then all of a sudden it was year two, and I had to smash them together with all of the conviction of someone who just assumed it's got to get done. So it did, and I'm really grateful to my committee members and my supervisor for helping me through that process, because I essentially got accepted into the doctoral program, and then that was it. Now I have to finish the thesis and get in. I was still finishing up the last revisions of my master's thesis when I was starting the first course in the doctoral program. And I was completely burned out. This fall, I was cutting down all of my committee things. I just could not. It was bad. So don't do that. Don't do that. You think maybe it wasn't that bad. It was bad. It is that bad. So don't do it. Definitely pace yourself. Make sure that you try to focus on one specific thing that you want to deep dive into. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you'll have plenty of time to revise and expand on that again if you're going into a PhD program later. And if you're doing the thesis masters, chances are you're considering that anyway. So that is my pro tip. But otherwise, the master's program itself is quite an enjoyable experience. You get to learn a lot. You get to take a lot of very interesting courses. And as Ali said, it can be a bit isolating. So even though I just said I cut down on all my committees, you have to understand I'm on 15 committees. So that was 10. But I was still in at least 10 committees and still participating. And that did give me a sense of everyone is still kind of here with me. I'm not on my own. If it's possible to have one of them that is a weekly meeting, that is very helpful. It gives you stability, and it allows you to have someone to check in with, which I think is one of the most important parts of this process. So those are my thoughts on it, and I welcome any questions. And now I'm going to drink tea.
Is there anyone
I'll go over
online
my
or
coffee.
in the room who might have questions? Otherwise, I can make up questions. So as two students who are very, very involved in the university, in, on committees, in your classes, but also outside the university, Ali teaches. Nat, are you teaching as well? No.
I'm not teaching right now, but I am doing part-time work for the CSSE, the conference.
And this morning, Nat, she co-presented some work she's done with a faculty committee on looking at the experiences of contract lecturers, so
Yeah.
doing research support. So as people who are already highly sort of engaged and involved, what would you say, what advice would you give to students who are starting out at the beginning about what kinds of experiences might be helpful for new students?
I can
Wow,
start.
it's been so long since I was new. Go for it.
I'm new at everything because I try everything. And that is kind of
Same.
my advice. If something crosses your way in an email or someone recommends, oh, I'm part of this thing, it might be a good fit, I always recommend at least trying it or finding more information about it for a little while. And if the shoe doesn't fit, don't stay. Like, you don't have to burden yourself with something that is not going to help you long term. But just by saying yes and trying different things, I mean, I didn't think I would get into a research analyst sort of thing. I thought that was sounded really scary. And then it was one of those things where I started doing some volunteer support work for Gary Plume, who's here on this call as well. And he had a survey, the Operation Happy to Be Here survey that we have every year that he created. And that's kind of how I got my feet wet with how surveys work, how data works, how coding works, the difference between quantitative and qualitative data. And then from that point, I already had kind of a foothold in what that was. And then as more opportunities came after that, I became more and more involved. And it got to the point where I could actually take on work, paid work that is that sort of thing. And I enjoy it. I like it now because I understand it. And I feel really good for having taken those first steps at the end of the B.Ed program and at the beginning of my M.Ed program, because that's when I got started. So yeah, my biggest recommendation is try stuff. It doesn't matter if you have absolutely no knowledge of it yet. That's expected. And just see kind of what clicks with you and just roll with it.
Couldn't agree more. As somebody who's also guilty of trying everything and also very guilty of really, I'm not great at saying no to stuff. Anybody who knows me knows that. I want to echo what Nat said, but I also want to make sure that everybody here has access to the supports that they need. I know that earlier in the presentation, Mare was mentioning we have some really excellent health and mental health resources available on campus. But something that doesn't get talked about frequently enough, and I say this as somebody who not only requires these supports, but also is a special education teacher myself, we have a really amazing accessibility department. I highly recommend if you are a person who identifies as disabled or at any point in time becomes not situationally, but like temporarily disabled if you injure yourself or if you have a mental health episode or anything along those lines, SAS is there for you. They are they're available on both campuses in person and online. It's quite easy to register. They will walk you through the process. I would not have survived the B.Ed and the M.Ed, and I probably wouldn't even be thinking about PhD without the support of SAS. So I highly recommend to all new students, even if you're not 100% certain or if you don't have a diagnosis, but you're pretty convinced that you have something, reach out to SAS because they can help you figure that stuff out. And if you have those supports in place already, or like preemptively going into your courses, it's going to make you that much more prepared. And for anybody who is an international student, our international student department also has really excellent resources. I'm less familiar with those, but a few of my friends who are international students have given their praise for that.
Zane, you had a question?
Yes, I was just gonna ask real quick about the SAS. If I'm already registered through my undergrad, will it just transfer over directly? Awesome.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I was gonna ask, so I looked at the previous recorded Zoom about the course routes if you take a course if you take the course route, and was just wondering, I just hearing everybody else just like about you, Ali, and the thesis that you're doing. Just curious, like if you had anything about the course route as well, and like how there's the social justice and indigenous and all those. If we can hear something on that.
Yeah, of course. So my girlfriend, well, a couple of my friends have started out in course route. Course, as Mare said, is like 90% of our program. The nice thing about course route is it kind of fulfills the itch that like I have, that is like there's so many courses that look interesting to take. It gives you that flexibility to be able to take more of them. So if you specialize and you go into the Education for Change program, you're going to have a few more restrictions around how much flexibility you have in those courses. But in theory, you're already very excited about the specialization that you pick within that. So if you specialize in Indigenous studies or social justice or why am I blanking on the third one?
Environmental and sustainability.
Thank you. Don't tell
There's just a lot
Helen
of
or
words.
Ellen. It's a lot of words. But if you're specializing in those areas, you're probably already very excited to take those courses. But the nice thing about course route is you do have that opportunity to get to take a lot more content or absorb a lot more content. And there's still opportunities for publication. Like if you write an assignment for a course and your prof says it's fantastic, ask them about how you can get into publication. Just because you're in there doesn't mean you can't do stuff like that. And you never know. You might get 6 courses in and say, you know what, I was wrong. I want to be doing my thesis. Ideally, don't go 6 courses in. Maybe try for the end of the first year. But same thing with portfolio. Portfolio is a little bit more hands-on from what I understand. I actually I haven't had the privilege of getting to know anybody really in depth who's in portfolio, but it's a nice answer for people who are more kinesthetic or like experiential learners and still want to be able to conduct research in a way that is not quite to the like depth and breadth that a thesis does, but it's a little bit more involved than just like taking your 10 courses and going on. But is there anything in particular that you wanted to ask, Zane?
Oh yeah, and
Like,
then also yeah. No, thanks. That helps a lot. And just real quick, it's also sorry, I'm in the middle of so if you've already said it already, I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat it just because I was in and out. Like yeah, Meredith, I heard a bunch of what you said, but just because I had to run back and forth. But the mostly was is there just like a Master's of Education like focus or because it branches off, right? That was like kind of the main thing I was thinking about.
so the like just education would be the educational studies.
Yeah, so
Like
it's
that's
like
the term for it.
yeah, so
Yeah, to give you
like
an example, like I started as Education for Change,
yeah,
and then it so happened that I ran out of courses to take, and I had to make a decision.
yeah,
Because I really wanted to take a certain course, but it wasn't my specialization, I ended up abandoning the specialization and just doing the educational studies and taking the course that I really wanted to take. So that's an option too. But yes, you can just do that if you'd like. Mara probably can give you more information. Maybe I did something weird, but that was a thing I did.
yeah.
Well, yeah, and you can take a variety of courses in educational studies. You can take social justice courses. Actually, we had happen this week, a student who went through an educational study, actually there were about 6 of them. And when I look at their transcripts, when I'm recommending them for graduation, I'm like, well, this person met all of the requirements for the social justice specialization, so it does happen. I was going to say I've put a link in the chat to the Lakehead thesis and dissertation database that has quite a lot of our, well, all of the theses and quite a lot of our portfolios that Gisela digitizes and uploads for us. So if you're interested, take a look at some of them. And there's a wide variety of them up there. And you can download, you can, read the abstract about what they're about, download them if you want, and see kind of what they're like. There was, one second, there was
I've got the chat. Mara, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to just highlight the question that was, what does full-time mean? Does it refer to one course per semester? So many of you might be used to undergraduate, where if you take up to 3 courses, you're part-time, and if you take 4 or 5, you're full-time. All graduate students are full-time students. Regardless of whether you take 3, which is the maximum for fall and winter, or 2, which is the maximum for both spring and summer courses, or fewer. So what that means is it gives you benefits for your taxes. And if you're applying for something like OSAP, you need to let them know that you're a graduate student, because there are some differences to undergraduate. So for example, you may need to apply for spring and summer, which you probably didn't as an undergraduate student. But regardless of how many classes you're taking, you're registered as a full-time student. And sometimes this is also for our students who are funded through their communities, and sometimes they'll need a letter to their community saying, the student is registered as a full-time student. I'm happy to provide that letter if you reach out to me. So how that affects things like tuition. Tuition in the master's program is per term rather than per course. So if you're taking 3 courses in a term, you're paying the same tuition as if you're taking 2 courses in a term. But that also gives you some flexibility in when you take things, and it also means that there's not going to be a penalty if you take more or less. The deadline for course selection for spring is Monday, because courses have already started and it's a compressed semester. You probably, and if you didn't get it, please email me directly and I will give you my email here. If you did not receive my weekly updates that say, hey, these are the courses that are open, register for them. That probably means that you might not be on the list of graduate students, but I usually every week send an update for what courses are available and encourage you to register. You should be registering for at least one in spring and one in summer.
I wouldn't register for more than one in spring and more than one in summer. The compressed courses are intense. It's a lot of information all at once, in my opinion. But I was going to say, I also have ADHD, so I kind of do best when I focus on one thing. So to each their own. But it's much easier in my experience, and Nat seems to agree. Fall and winter are your times to take more than one course if you want to. I would not do more than 2 ever, and I would keep the multiples in the semesters that have 12 weeks.
Agreed.
When I started in the master's program way back in the last millennium, I went to sign up for courses and they said, and I was like, why am I capped at 3? Like, I'm used to taking 5 or 6 in a term. And then I found out why 3 is the maximum. So cover the ears for those who teach in the undergraduate program. We know that our students don't do their readings. You cannot get through a master's course without doing the readings. And you may also be called on to take those readings and then find other readings that relate to what you're reading. I'll answer that one next. You may be asked to find other readings, so that's a great time to reach out to Gisela or Chris about strategies for finding those. You will also be required to do a lot of writing. So it might be you're taking a course where you're doing online discussion posts. That takes time. And please also, as we talked about earlier, do not have AI write your discussion posts for you, because we can tell.
It's true. We can. And even if you try and disguise it, just use it for formatting. It's great for formatting, but write your own stuff, please.
And you'll learn so much more, right? So we know that it's tough for people who are adjusting to new pedagogies, particularly in a new country, to have to talk about themselves and their experiences, but trust me, we're actually interested in that. Yes, so in spring and summer when they're compressed, I know people try to take more. 2 is the maximum for spring, 2 for summer. I highly don't recommend taking 2 and 2. Take 1 and 1, or start with 1, see how this term goes. If you think over summer you're going to have lots of time and you're not in Aurelia on the beach or in Thunder Bay, hiking and on the beach, or have a summer job, think about 2. But I really don't want you to get yourself into a situation where you're going to feel overwhelmed and have put in a lot of time into a class and then have to make that decision to drop it, because that, happens. And like I said earlier, you have to pass your classes. If you don't pass a class, it's messy. So, and to pass is a 70. You can have 2 classes in the 60s, but it's it's really upsetting to people when they don't do as well as they think. And there's nothing wrong with facing challenges. There are ways to get through it, but please reach out to the coordinators or reach out to me. We'll talk about strategies. We'll talk about, yes, it's okay to take that later in your program. Okay. We had another question. Is EDUC 5713, Foundations of Graduate Studies in Education, compulsory or elective? So it's a face-to-face course. It was developed by Dr. Walton, who has had to step away from the call. It's a really excellent class for domestic and international students to take early in your program, although it's being offered on campus. The focus of the class is on things like academic integrity, how to write well for graduate programs in Canada, because we know there are differences between different countries and how people write, giving you support and resources, how to give an academic presentation. If it is written, it is not technically compulsory for all Master of Education students, but if it is on your acceptance letter, which it will be for a number of students who are starting in spring and summer, then you are required to take it, and it will be an open elective. When I looked last, there were 7 students enrolled in it, and I know there are more than 7 students who have it on their letter who are supposed to be taking it. So I will say it's a great introduction and gives you skills that will help you be successful throughout your program. So particularly, if you've never had to write a long paper in English before, or you don't know sort of what the procedures are around how to do citations and APA as well. It's also a great place to meet other new, predominantly international students who are on campus in the spring and summer, so that it's a little bit less lonely making that transition. So we have time maybe for a couple more minutes of questions, and then I'll transition to the last part because I notice a number of my colleagues are joining us. Are there any other burning questions? Okay. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Nat, as always, for sharing your enthusiasm and your knowledge and wisdom with us. I want to say that we have an excellent community of graduate students, so please, and I will be circulating, as I said, the slides with the links. Please reach out to the Lakehead University Education Graduate Students Association. It's luegsa at lakeheadu.ca. There's also a sign up, so if you sign up for the club, that helps them get funding that they can use to host events. And the sign-ups usually start in the beginning of September. But even if you're not signing up, you can always go to events. They're also a great vehicle for you if you're uncomfortable coming to me, or you're uncomfortable coming to Dr. Plume or to Dr. Walton or to Dr. Berger, who's taking over for Dr. Walton in the about in the middle of summer, like, and you're not quite sure, and you really, have concerns that you would like the chair to hear about or the dean to hear about, that's your mechanism to really have your voice heard if you're a little bit nervous to be that voice for yourself and to get support. Because it's best for us, and the best part of my job, like I said, is helping students to find ways to meet their academic goals and their professional goals and feel a part of our community and really to be successful. So without further ado, and 7 minutes earlier than I thought, so actually I'm doing pretty good today. I wanted to take an opportunity. I had reached out to some of my other colleagues who teach in our department. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their research, if they're doing research, or the classes that they're teaching, if they're teaching in this term or coming up, and then give you an opportunity to put a face to the name. And as different people are filtering in, then I will add to the sort of end of the list, but I'll maybe go in the order that you show up on my screen. So we'll start with Dr. Cormier.
Always put on the spot first, eh? Hi, everybody. Bonjour, Maingin Mendindakas, Maingin Nadodom. My name is Paul Cormier. I'm a member of Lake Helen First Nations, the Red Rock Indian Band, which is about an hour east of Thunder Bay. And I am associate professor and chair of Q8NSA, which is the Department of Indigenous Education at Lakehead University. Right now, I have a number of projects that I'm involved with. I predominantly publish in the area of education, Indigenous education, and peace and conflict studies with an Indigenous focus and Indigenous methodologies. Um, I'm starting a number of projects this year around prior learning assessment. I have a grant with a colleague for that. Um, I have a postdoc in Indigenous language revitalization and immersion, who were doing some assessment work and kind of developing monitoring criteria for what success means in immersion context and Indigenous language contexts. I'm also involved with a data sovereignty project, and kind of what happens to data, when people pass. And a whole bunch of ethical considerations and things around that. So that's just a few projects that I'm involved with. I'm also doing, just starting, been at it for about a year, a large international collaboration with a university in Norway, Ager University. So I'm just in the process of organizing an international gathering here in Thunder Bay. That's going to happen in June. Um, we're hoping to, with our partners in Norway, they've developed a proposal to look at a number of facets of Indigenous ed and teacher training. And also they've invited a school from New Zealand and the Sami people, which are the Indigenous people of Northern Norway, who are going to be involved in that as well. I'm also, along with that project, it's related to kind of Indigenous methodologies, but I have a process that I've been working on for quite a few years now called Kinamadawad Megwadodamawad, where they are learning with each other while they are doing. And it's about Indigenous methodologies, but it's about creating mutual learning spaces. So part of what we're going to do with the international work is develop like a conferencing process around circles that maybe can help with collaborative writing and things like that. And then I'm trying to morph that into this other larger project called the World Center for Indigenous Peace Building. I'm going to be teaching, I think I'm teaching one graduate course this coming year, and it's in Indigenous methodologies in the winter term. So if anybody's interested in that, I don't know what the number of students will be in there.
It'll be my first time. It's actually my area of my dissertation was in Indigenous methodologies. And so it's going to be my first time teaching that course, but I'm really excited to do it because it's in the area that I actually went to school for. So I'm excited about that. Um, yeah, I think that's probably about it. Miigwech.
Thank you. Dr. Kyander.
Hi, welcome to our program. I'm, I guess, the main faculty member in math education in Thunder Bay. I do have a graduate course this fall, actually, in mathematics curriculum. And before everybody goes and hides under a bush at, that very bad word, just know that it's very much a course for everyone. It is not meant to be a course for students with extensive backgrounds. I also provide opportunities for students to do some work in the particular area or grade level that they're interested in, whether that's elementary or secondary. So there's lots of options in that course. And just one little note in terms of some of the research work I'm doing right now, it seems to be more in the writing area than after many decades of exploring content knowledge and teachers' needs around content knowledge. Some colleagues and I are working on some collections of Canadian research. So we already have a book that is based on really, I want to say it's almost a who's who of Canadian authors at the secondary level, including some really, really nice pieces around Indigenous learning ideas in mathematics and so on. And that's this one. And because I'm an editor of it, I'm allowed to share this for free with students taking the course. So this is like $150 US book that you would get access to the text of. And we're in the middle of collecting papers right now for a complimentary elementary volume of the same series, and we'll have the drafts of those by the end of August. So I see no reason why those couldn't be available as well. So I'm mentioning all of this because one of the ideas of these collections was, rather than sending grad students, particularly new master's students, scurrying around trying to find research, which often comes up as US research and so on. When you look at the journals, you don't necessarily know up front which journal is which. So we've kind of collected snapshots of the research of the predominant Canadian math education researchers in these volumes as a starting point. So the idea was to kind of make that initial introduction to some of the literature a little bit more straightforward for students. And so I hope that anyone interested is welcome to join us for that course in the fall. It's only offered every second year, by the way. So this is, and I could be retired by 3 years from now. So you might want to consider it if you're interested at all. Love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rubinoff.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to pop in and just say hi and let you all know that I will be teaching the Learning Processes course in the fall. We'll be spending time focusing on nervous system states, ours and our students' nervous system states, and how that impacts our ability to learn and the role that that plays in education. And within the course, there will also be lots of opportunity to apply the learning to, thanks, Allie, to apply the learning to whatever your particular areas of interest are within education. So if that's of interest to you, please check it out. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the course, if you're trying to figure out whether or not it's a good match for you. I'm happy to have conversations about that. Other areas of interest for me, mentorship for teachers in education and the role mentorship can play as a co-regulating strategy. I think that's a really important piece in supporting educators in their work. So I will just stop there, and thanks again for the opportunity, and reach out.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just making sure in case there were any requests that came in that way. Perfect. Okay, Dr. Field.
Hi, everyone. It's also really neat to hear from my colleagues all the work that they're doing.
So my name is Ellen Field, and I teach a climate change ed grad course that runs in the fall. The version I teach is asynchronous, and then my colleague Paul Berger teaches a face-to-face course. I think it's happening in the winter semester in Thunder Bay. We've done research on our courses. Students tend to like them. They tend to be experiential, and you don't have to have a strong foundational understanding of climate change or environmental learning to take it. And it'll be eye-opening. It might make you feel a bit concerned, but part of also the course is building up capacity and agency so you know what you can do as a teacher and also as a citizen to address the climate crisis. The other sort of piece that I'll share is currently working as associate editor for the Journal of Environmental Ed on a special issue of curriculum and pedagogy on climate change ed, and also for the Canadian Journal of Environmental Ed, which is a yearly. So there's lots happening in this space. And I work on a couple other capacity building projects for teacher educators working across faculties of ed in Canada, and also work with Dr. Lindsay Galway, who's a Canadian research chair in socioecological health. And we have a 5-year project looking at how youth and young adults what coping strategies they have, and also what their needs are around climate anxiety in schools and in general. So reach out if you're interested in those areas, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Just because he got put to the bottom because his camera's off, Gary, was there more you wanted to add to your introduction at the beginning? Or I may have caught him stepped away for a moment. No problem. I'll come back. Dr. Kafer.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tanya Kafer. In the fall, I will be teaching Intro to Research, and I will be teaching it the asynchronous version of the course. It is a required course, so everybody's going to have to take it, but you won't necessarily have to take it with me, but you might. So hello in advance if you are taking it with me. It should be a good course. I've taught it several times before. It is very much an Intro to Research course. So it will cover quantitative, qualitative, other types of research. It's just going to hit the highlights. It is absolutely not going to be comprehensive. It is an intro course. It is an overview to the concepts of research, how we do research in education, what research in education means. So I think it's really fun, and you have to take it, but I look forward to taking it with whoever is taking it with me. My research is in language and literacy development, specifically around vocabulary and knowledge development. And I take a very cognitive science approach to that. So it's very much about how we learn and how brains work, and it can be really fun. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that as you may have them. Also, for the next 2 months, I am the acting dean of education. So if you have any issues in May or June, you can come to me with those in addition to Meredith. Although, of course, Meredith is going to know much more about the actual grad program. But I am here to help for the next 2 months. And then Dr. Melville will be back, and we'll be very happy to help you after that. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Walton.
So I blathered on a little bit at the beginning of this meeting and then had to leave, and here I am back again. So I won't say too much, but I will ask you a question, Meredith, which is, in my absence while I was away from this meeting, did you mention the Foundations of Grad Studies in Education course?
I did. Actually, it came up as a topic of conversation in the chat. So we addressed that when Ali and Nat were talking.
Okay, that's good.
Partially, though. I feel like, did we give, I thought you said something about waiting for, I could have tuned out.
Yeah, and so I talked about the course being designed to be early in the program to build foundational academic skills to be successful within the program. The question was about whether it's compulsory course or not. For some students, it's compulsory, so you need to go back to your acceptance letter. If it says you need to take EDUC 5713 in the earliest possible term. There are currently lots of spaces available in it. It is a good one to take at the very beginning because it addresses things like academic integrity, how to be successful in writing papers for our program, giving presentations. That was what I talked about. Certainly welcome to give more information.
I don't need to give too much more because that's a nice little summary of it, but I will say that whether it's compulsory on your letter of offer or not, it's a really useful course to take because it's one that focuses mostly on skill building as opposed to, academics in the strictest sense of that word. It's about the skills you can develop or should develop to do the academic work that this program requires. So it really is a course that should help you to build your success in the program. That's really what it's designed for. I've been teaching it from its inception, and I believe the first offering was 2016, I think. And there were very few students in that course at the time. To my memory, they were all domestic, and things have really changed, and the course itself has grown immensely such that, what do we have, 4 or 5 instructors teaching it in any given semester, something like that. So it's a course that's in demand for good reason. So anyway, that's what I'll be teaching again in the fall, as well as a doctoral course, which maybe isn't relevant for this conversation, but socio-political, cultural contexts in education, I think is the title. And Nat was in that last year, and I'll be doing it again in the fall. And that's what I do. I'm not sure if I need to say anything else, but that's sort of the summary of things coming up. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think we've talked to Chris. Was there anything you wanted to add? Or you're good? Okay. Next we have Dr. Pauline Samashima.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if Gisela has spoken already, but we do have a room here in Burr, Alaska, where folks are. So hello to people down the hall. I went over there and we didn't have talking access. So here I am back in my office on Zoom. So hi, everybody. I teach an Arts Integrated Research Methods course in winter. And I also do a qualitative research, but my focus and area of study is really focused on using the arts in research, in the data collection phase and analysis, and in research mobilization and sharing of findings. So if you're interested in that, please check out that course. Other than, beyond my teaching, I edit a journal called the Journal of the Canadian Association for Curriculum Studies. So we have it's really a broad-based understanding of curriculum studies. So check that out if you're interested in publishing in curriculum studies. I curate the galleries at Lakehead, the Thunder Bay campus. So we have 6 different gallery spaces. And usually in December, we have a call out for art connected to the theme of Research Innovation Week. And then the artwork is adjudicated by 5 jurors and then goes through sort of a pretty rigorous process. But then we have wonderful art on the walls. This year we partnered with a local community group. So in Burr, Alaska, we actually have a community exhibition on this year. Okay, I think that's about it.
Great, thank you. Dr. Plume, did you want to add to what you talked about earlier?
Yeah, not much to add to what I said before. I'm point of contact in Aurelia for Master of Education students. I do work in intercultural education, social foundations. For anyone who wants to do work in that area, I'm teaching a course right now for MEd students, the sociology of education. I mentioned about a place-based education, highly intensive and experiential, running a year from now. And then periodically I teach comparative and international education as well.
Great. It's a very well-known course on campus here. They call it Biking with Gary. but place-based education is a better title. Dr. Huxman.
Thanks. Yeah, well, my area, I kind of known for doing work in media literacy. So that's teaching about and with media. So it distinguished itself from EdTech because of that about, right? So there's a lot of focus on what's actually happening and how it's impacting our world and our lives. So the datification, platformization, all the sort of crazy things that are occurring in the media environment, which we inhabit on the, inside and outside of learning institutions. So all of that, I've been on the board of Media Smarts, Canada Centre for Digital and Media Literacy for 14 years. I'm the vice chair right now. And I guess if you know Media Smarts, then you might have an idea of some of the things I dabble in, because of course that's a really, really big pool, and just put your toe in there and you'll get an idea. I'm teaching a course on digital media and digital literacy. It just started yesterday, and that'll be, I won't be back in the graduate rotation for 2 years. So if anyone's interested, this would be the moment, and it's not too late to start. And then in general, social science, humanities background, I can contend with critical theory, cultural studies, history of literacies, like literacy is a broader framing device for talking about culture, talking about learning, talking about society, and anti-racism, and a lot of, I guess there's a number of us that we're able to get inside and have a conversation and guide people through their work. But in other words, not always through necessarily one of our subject matter strengths. But there you have it. Thanks.
Great. And so, and I know Gisela has no microphone there, so I will end off with me, seeing that we have no new people joining the call. My name is Meredith Lovell-Johnston. Like I said, I'm the Chair of Graduate Studies. I will be teaching a class in the winter that is curriculum studies in language arts, which has a focus on, like Dr. Kyander talked about, math across the lifespan. We have a focus on, you can come to the class from any perspective. If you're interested in early literacy, if you're interested in adult literacy, there's a space for you in the course. I do also have a postdoc scholar who's working with me. That's Dr. Hannah Wickstrom. I will say, yeah, no, sorry. So Dr. Wickstrom is working with me on a project that is related to literacy and play and math. So it should be interesting going forward. My current research, we're winding down. We've done a study on kindergarten and integrating literacy into inquiry-based kindergartens. We're winding down a project that looked at self-regulation and literacy in northern communities in Ontario. Right now, I'm working on a project that looks at basically the transition from into university as like first-year students, and helping design learning opportunities that are inviting to particularly non-traditional learners. So my area really is around early literacy, pedagogy, development, assessment, but also looking at educational technology, which I think a few of us also do work in those areas. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's here today, as well as those who will be watching later. I'm going to crop the video and probably upload it and circulate it with the slides on Monday. Are there any last burning questions that anyone has before we go?